Welcome back, Beans Army, to another episode of the Less is More Sports podcast, the college offseason podcast, where you could say we're less of the regular season, but more of the offseason. It's hard to believe the end of the 2025 college football season is almost here. But we have one more game before we officially dive full force into the 2026 college football offseason. But it all goes down Monday night. We have Miami, we have Indiana set to duke it out for the 2025-2026 College Football National Championship. And before we get into the main part of the show, I have to say, when it comes to this matchup, I dove deep into any dictionary I could find to find a word that properly describes this game, but none really fit what I was going for. So I ultimately went with the cliche answer, historic. This is Indiana's first national title game in program history. And we just can't say enough about how Kurt Cignetti showed how showed all of us how to play dynasty mode in real life by taking a team in 2 years after being one of the least successful programs in FBS history to a potential undefeated national championship. And on the other side, Miami, once a juggernaut of the 80s and early 2000s, that we've been patiently waiting for their return to prominence, has finally reached the pinnacle yet again. I'm going to be honest, before we dive into this podcast, I do want to say I didn't even want to do a show today. Not after I was just getting some of my needs at the grocery store and I check my phone, see if I've got missed any calls or whatever, and I just get this notification that says, "Oh, Darian Mins is in the transfer portal." I was like, "Nope, day is absolutely ruined. Don't want any part of this." Bean is here making me feel better, so I appreciate that, bud.
Yeah, my day's going pretty good, but I did see that
Rub it
and
in, why don't you?
I immediately thought of you because you were
Aw.
you posted on Twitter about like a post that was like Darian Mensah may go to the portal and you were like, I really hope not. So I mean immediately thought of you and you know, that sucks. I'm sorry.
Aw.
But thanks for Terry Moore. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I know he has potential to be a really good player and he already has been a good player.
He's been a good player for us, yeah.
Yeah. But who would have thought that? I mean, maybe going into the playoffs, Indiana could have definitely made the national championship just from like looking at that view. But who would have thought we would have had Indiana and Miami? That's not the matchup that I would have thought we would have. Obviously hoping my team would be in it, but they're not. But uh, but yeah, I mean, this is such an interesting game you know, uh, with the history of with both teams, Miami being the bustle that they were in, early 2000s and late 1900s, which sounds weird, but and then Indiana being like the most losingest program, but they've had a lot of history with, Mario Cristobal and Kurt Cignetti's dad being teammates, and I think Carson Beck and Fernando Mendoza played at the same high school, just like 1 year apart, which is crazy. And then Mario Cristobal's nephew is playing against Carson Beck. It's just a lot of ties within this game. So I'm very excited to watch this game just to the potential matchups that we could see.
Wait, Carson Beck went to Columbus?
I think he did. I'm pretty sure he did.
Well, then both quarterbacks are still neither as famous as Cam Boozer, is all I'm going to say. That
We
he
had
had a,
to, we had to make this podcast
we
about
did.
Boozer. And
We,
speaking of like just that basketball part real quick, they had Malik Reneau was talking, who went to Indiana, transferred to Miami. He said he's going for Miami because I think that's his hometown team. So that really puts him in like a pickle of who to cheer for. But it's very interesting.
well, that's also the school he's currently at. That would be a
Yeah.
bad look if
Yeah.
he's cheering for Indiana.
That wouldn't be a bad look. Yeah. That just, who would have known that, the two schools that he went to are in the Natty now just for a different sport.
But as you talked about how much of a surprise it was that Miami's playing in the national championship game, what's been kind of the biggest surprise about this playoff run for you?
Let me think. I think that just the absolute, but like if we compare last year's playoff to now, obviously it was the same where most of the teams that had a bye lost, and obviously the seeding was different. But again, it seems like the seeding doesn't matter. Like the seeding doesn't judge how good teams are. I mean, Miami's a 10 seed and they're in the national championship. We were like an 8 seed. Notre Dame was like a 7 seed last year, something like that. And we were in the Natty. So the seeds don't matter. And Indiana looks like they can't be stopped. But but Miami wants to have a word with that.
I mean, it almost looks like the true effect of, wait for it, but a tournament,
Yeah.
a 12-team college football playoff. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's what's been great about the 12-team college football playoff is like it would be boring if you just had the top two seeds at the opposite ends of the bracket and then they just met for the national championship every
Yeah.
year. But like
Yeah.
now, like you said, we have a 10 seed in the national championship this year. Of course, Indiana being the lone team that had a bye that was able to get a win.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it was surprising about Miami. What's been surprising about Indiana for me is that they played a fairly easy schedule in the regular season.
Hmm.
They only played two ranked teams, Iowa and Oregon, until the postseason began. They played, of course, your Buckeyes in the Big Ten championship, and then they began the college football playoff. And to play, I guess, that week of a schedule, or I shouldn't say that week of a schedule, not the toughest schedule out there, and then come in and they're just steamrolling everybody. That's almost unheard of because we make a big deal every year on the podcast once the playoff starts about teams that are battle tested, teams that have actually been through, trial by fire, and how it sets you up for success as and the postseason goes on. And with Indiana, it's like they haven't really needed it. They've
Yeah.
just been well coached and they've just stuck to their game plan and it's worked for them. And now they're on their way to the national championship game. But we also have a little bit of more history as we talk about Miami and Indiana because they have played twice before historically. The first coming on October 24th of 1964, where the Hoosiers, surprisingly enough, won 28-14. But in the second game, the Canes got their lick back on October 22nd of 1966, winning 14-7. I can't think of a much bigger game to break the tiebreaker than in the national championship game.
Yeah. And Les, tell me what you remember for those games.
What the hell, man? That was 30 years before I was born. Listen, I know I'm losing my hair, but we ain't gonna let those old jokes slide there, my boy.
No, that's so funny. I mean, I tried to get stats and it wasn't easy to find stats about those games. Like
I
you know,
don't I don't think College Football Reference was around back then.
yeah, yeah, I know. And probably ESPN wasn't either, you know. But I want to talk about the Oregon game. I went to the Indiana Oregon game, great stadium. Thank you, Arthur Blank, for making the prices of the food so cheap. I love that. But and I went to the game. Obviously, it was an absolute blowout. Didn't expect that. I thought Oregon would actually put up a good fight because they had a chip on their shoulder. The people in front of me were Oregon fans. All right. They were Oregon fans. They drove from Iowa to Atlanta to get absolutely blown out. Now, obviously, they didn't expect that to happen, but driving from Iowa is a very, very long drive.
Well,
Prayers for them on their way back, obviously, assuming they made it. But yeah, and can we talk about Matt during the game, his reactions in the group chat? Do you know what I'm talking about?
well, yeah, he's been doing that all college football playoffs. For, obviously none of the listeners are in our group chat, or at least I would hope not. You never know. Group chats get leaked nowadays. But but anyways, no, Matt's good luck charm is to message the group chat with the most negative energy you could possibly think of. He's just like, "Oh, we're gonna blow the game right here. Oh, Mendoza's gonna throw a pick right here," even though Mendoza hasn't thrown a pick the entire college football playoff. I mean, he has more touchdowns than incompletions right now. Dude's playing
Yeah.
out of this world. But Matt is one of those people who his good luck charm during big games is to just be as negative as completely possible, and it's funny as hell. Not gonna lie.
Because watching the game, Indiana's up like 42 points, and Oregon does something positive, and it's like Matt McClone. Here's where we blow the game. Here's where Indiana, or here's where Oregon comes back. I mean, dude, you're up 42 points. There's like 4 minutes left. They are not coming back. I promise you. But it's worked ever since he started it. So, I mean, props to him.
Just imagine what that group chat's going to be like on Monday night. He like before an hour before the game, he's like, "We're going to lose by 50." The U's
Yeah.
back. Carson Beck is going to be the second coming of Ken Dorsey. I don't know.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I'm ready for it because we'll all be watching, obviously. But
But anyways, as we talk about the game, Ryan, what are some key player matchups that you're interested in seeing? But of course, the obvious answer, you can't go with quarterback matchup because you can't say, I mean,
yeah,
that's the obvious choice. Like obviously the Mendoza, the Heisman Trophy winner, Carson Beck's a big name as well. Apparently has a Lambo Urus. I learned that this week. Don't know what good that's going to do him in the game, but hey, good for you, bud. But outside of the quarterbacks, what key player matchups are you interested in watching?
and Carson Beck has to be thinking about one of the Cavender twins after he wins every game. Just like proving them wrong for breaking up with him and saying bad things about him. But
Apparently he cheated. So I mean,
oh, okay.
I think they were valid to break up with him.
Well, well, then you know, I can't back him up on that. I didn't know about that. But some of the player matchups, obviously not quarterback that I'm gonna bring up is some of the more popular ones. Malachi Tony versus D'Angelo Pons. These guys are about the same size, and I don't know if he'll be following him around the whole game, talking about D'Angelo Pons. But Malachi Tony is obviously freshman. He's really, really young for a freshman. And he's not just a great receiver, but he's also sometimes their lead blocker. He'll go into the hole, he'll block, the linebacker, the corner, the safety, and he'll be the key block for Mark Fletcher to have a long run. So he's such an impact player. They have those Mallycat type of plays that they have, meaning like, the Wildcat plays where he can throw it. He did it a bunch at American Heritage back in high school. But if Miami wants to win, they got to get him, having some type of impact in the game. He he needs to make sure that, he's not making any mistakes. Caleb Downs made him fumble twice in our game. Luckily, he was able to get it back for Miami, and then also D'Angelo Pons. D'Angelo Pons, if he was like 2 inches taller, he'd probably be a first rounder. He's that good. He's just a little bit small, but he plays much bigger than he is. And against Malachi Tony, he doesn't have to play, that big because they're almost kind of the same size. But D'Angelo Pons obviously had a great game against Oregon. He made Ty Simpson fumble against Bama. He's a very good corner. He's very fast, and he knows how to go get the ball. I'm not sure if he'll be guarding Malachi Tony the whole time, but if he guards CJ Daniels, then he plays bigger than he is. So I think he'll do fine against that. And also maybe Keelan Marion. And then my second player matchup that I'm excited to watch is obviously one of the stars of Miami, Ruben Bain versus Carter, whether that's the left tackle Carter Smith or the right tackle Khalil Benson. I know Indiana's been kind of switching around Khalil Benson, whether he's in or Zen Mahalski's in. I will say if Zen Mahalski's in, then you should probably pray because Caden Curry was having a field day against Zen in the Ohio State Big Ten championship game. And so obviously Ruben Bain is a better player than Caden Curry. So if one of Miami's key things is they have to, Ruben Bain's got to get to the quarterback. You got to make Fernando uncomfortable, and he's going against two really good tackles. Carter Smith being one of, I don't know where he was in the Big Ten selection, but he's definitely up there for being one of the best left tackles. But I'm interested to see that matchup and how much Ruben Bain impacts the game.
So, in typical less is more sports fashion, every year during the college football playoff semifinals, we do game previews of each game. And of course, with the national championship on Monday night, we did our game preview of Miami versus Indiana. Of course, we broke it down by position groups, coaching battles, and of course, gave three keys to the game. And I'm going to ask Ryan if I left anything out. And for those listening at home that haven't watched that video, my three keys for Miami were to disrupt IU's RPOs. IU has a very heavy RPO offense. Number two, Carson Beck rises to the occasion. Obviously, I've been very critical of Carson Beck on this show, but I'd be lying if I said Carson Beck didn't have his moments where he did look like one of the better quarterbacks in college football. Which the key being which Carson Beck shows up Monday night. And number three for Miami is establish the run. For Indiana, of course, I had to lead with the man, the myth, the legend, Fernando Mendoza. He stays on another level. Again, he has more touchdowns and incompletions. I mean, nothing else needs to be said. Number two, pretty self-explanatory. Protect Mendoza. That Miami defensive line has been the star of the college football playoff. for them, and if they can continue to wreak havoc, it could be a long day for Miami for Indiana unless they do protect their star quarterback. And then number three for Indiana, I have control the clock. Miami has some very explosive playmakers that can score in bunches. So if Indiana can control the clock, eat some clock, and limit the amount of possessions that Miami has, it can go their way. So of those three for each Miami and Indiana, do you think I left anything out that you would add?
Honestly, probably not. I may be able to bring some up. I wrote three for each team, but they're kind of similar to yours. I didn't want to make it exactly similar, but I'll
Mm.
just, I'll try to go through them quick. But for Indiana, I have keep dominating like you said. I mean, they've just been dominating Alabama and Oregon in dominant fashion. They have that killer mentality where, they're up by so many points against Oregon and then they go block the punt. Like it's just they never quit and they've just been dominating the teams that they've played. And then second one for Indiana would be make sure Bain and Mesidor don't impact. They could impact any game and tear up the offense by getting to the quarterback in about 2 or 3 seconds. So you need to make sure whether that's chipping or sliding an extra alignment to help against them. You need to make sure that he's not, or they're not, rather, impacting the game. And then, and which that means, making them not impact the game. That means get the ball out quick. That's what Louisville did to beat Miami because Miller Moss was able to get the ball out quick, so they couldn't get there that fast. And then the third one for Indiana is take what you are given. Fernando Mendoza has been great with being able to take what he's given, whether that's short pass, setting up the deep play to Charlie Becker. He's been great with that. Take what you were given, move down the field, and that's what ultimately sets them up to score, which their red zone offense has been really, really good. And then on to Miami, their keys to victory would be, use the power up front. They have two great O linemen in Markel Bell, who is about 6'9", 340 pounds, and then Francis Mauigoa, who's going to be a definite first round pick. Hopefully, my Browns take him. I would love him, whether that's tackle or putting him at guard. But being powerful up front would set up Mark Fletcher going. He's a very tough back, and he can kill you on, if there's a big hole up in or that opens, and he can break a couple tackles. And then for the second one for Miami, I have make Mendoza uncomfortable. As good as a passer he is, he's also a great, escape artist in the pocket. He knows how to get out. He knows how to run. His run may look a little weird, but he's able to run past the defenders and get the first down, and he's very smart about it. And then for the third one, so they can't let Mendoza sit back there and just dime up your defense. That's not going to work with how good he's been playing. So they have to get to the quarterback. And then don't make mistakes. Like I mentioned earlier, Malachi Tony has two fumbles. Carson Beck has a thing where he likes to throw interceptions sometimes that hasn't shown up really. He threw one against Ole Miss, but it ultimately didn't lose him the game.
Wait,
Wait,
wait, wait, wait,
I
wait, wait,
forgot
wait,
about it. What
wait, wait,
was
wait,
the
wait, wait,
mistake?
wait. All quarterbacks throw interceptions sometimes, Ryan. I don't think we've
Yeah.
ever had a quarterback just complete a season with zero interceptions. I mean, at least not with as many attempts as these guys get.
Well, I mean, UConn's quarterback finished with one interception. That's pretty
Yeah,
good.
but even yeah, that's amazing. But even he threw an interception.
Yeah, no, that's not what I meant. Like, but Carson Beck has a thing where he loses games by throwing like two or
There
three
we go.
interceptions.
There we go.
That's what I meant. Okay, I'm gonna retract my statement. Uh, you can't make, Carson Beck. Carson Beck can't throw two or three interceptions and lose the game for them. They have to hold on to the ball. Indiana does not make mistakes. They're so coached well by Signetti and the rest of the crew. So, don't make mistakes. That sounds easy to say, but that's what you have to do to beat Indiana.
So I think it's officially time for the $1 million question. Who is going to win the national championship game? Is it going to be Miami? Is it going to be Indiana? Ryan, who you got?
Well, I mean, I was going to pick Miami until I remembered who's on Miami's sideline. That is White Powder Mike, if you know who I'm talking about. Michael Irvin. Uh, he is getting on all floors, hands and knees, pretending like his life depends on these 20-year-olds winning this game. So I'm gonna go with Indiana because I think that they can't be stopped right now. If you see a team starting to pull away and look like they are a complete team and can't be stopped, that might be the team that wins the national championship. So I'm gonna pick Indiana, and it's not mainly because of Michael Irvin, but I don't want to see him win. I don't want to see him act after that win. So I'm gonna go with Indiana.
I'm also going to go with Indiana because they've been the most dominant team all season long. They've answered all the questions when it came to their schedule during this college football playoff run. And like Ryan said earlier, they don't beat themselves. They can win the battle in the trenches. They can rely on their run game. And most importantly, Fernando Mendoza, aka Heisman Mendoza, has taken his Heisman level game to an even further level during these college football playoffs. So ultimately, I'm rolling with the Hoosiers again. So you heard it here first on the Less is More Sports podcast. Indiana is winning the 2026 College Football National Championship. Just go ahead and bring in the confetti.
I mean, what a crazy turnaround from 2 seasons ago. What is what's his name? Indiana's former coach.
Tom Allen.
What is Tom Allen thinking right now?
Um,
I know he's
he's
with Clemson, but what's he thinking?
I'm not a psychic, so I really don't know.
Why aren't you?
I'm just not gifted like that, bro.
But he's got to be thinking something, either extremely proud or a little bit jealous, But
Probably a little bit jealous, if I had to say.
well, he's with he's with Clemson now, so at least he's
He's
still
probably no, what he's probably honestly thinking is why couldn't Cuban give me a blank check when I was there? That's what he's probably thinking.
supposedly Cuban never went to Indiana games when he was a student, but now he's going to the games since they're
That
good,
I
obviously.
mean, well, that's like the perfect time for Indiana fans for him to go is when he's actually got money. So
Yeah,
I mean, he didn't have money as a student. It didn't matter then, not to mention not like they could have used any of that money back then legally,
yeah, yeah. We know that.
but I have a feeling that it won't be, despite the fact that we have Miami losing, both of us have Miami losing in the national championship game. I have a feeling it won't be all bad for Miami because, as I mentioned to begin this podcast, Darian Minza has entered the transfer portal for Duke, and the lead rumor right now is that he is going to transfer to Miami. So if Miami loses this game, fear not, Canes fans, because you could be getting an even better quarterback next year. You heard it here first.
Yeah. And we both predicted Indiana to win, but like how do you kind of see in the game go?
Honestly, I see it going like the Alabama and Oregon game. Indiana just jumps out to a big lead early and just doesn't let up.
Yeah. I mean, that's easily predictable now, which how they've seen. And by the way, I mean, I didn't mention this, but Miami was kind of banged up. Like OJ Frederick was banged up, and then I think maybe one of their safeties was a little banged up. So I'm not sure how healthy they are. They could pull like a Sam Darnold and just appear on the questionable sheet or the injury report just randomly. But no, I mean, we'll have to see how healthy they are. But I could see it definitely going that way. They just look like unstoppable right now.
Yeah, and I think there's just nothing else needs to be said. Indiana is looking like the team to beat, the team of destiny. As much as I hate to quote people in my TikTok comments, I mean, it's kind of valid. They look like the team of destiny right now.
Yeah,
So, yeah, like you said, crazy turnaround from 2 years ago. One of the worst teams in college football to 2026 national champs, undefeated season, and arguably one of the best teams ever. I know that's going to be a conversation for years to come. How good is this team? I know they've been compared to the 2019 LSU team. Matt and I both disagree with that one, but nonetheless, it is a conversation and a fun conversation, probably one we will continue to have this offseason on some filler
yeah.
episodes.
And like talking about 2 years ago, who would have thought that this year's Heisman race, looking at it 2 years ago, the two the Indiana quarterback and the Vandy quarterback. I mean, that's just crazy to see the top two really Heisman race between Pavia and Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah, we're by an Indiana quarterback and a Vandy quarterback, two teams that are historically not powerhouses by any stretch of the imagination.
No, but just That's what the transfer portal can do.
And
And,
speaking of the transfer portal, as we transition to what this show is actually about, the college offseason, we've had a crazy first session of the transfer portal sequence. The portal officially closes tonight at midnight for any team not named Indiana and Miami. So if you are an opposing, if you are a player on a college football team not named Indiana or Miami, at your deadline to enter the transfer portal is tonight at midnight. And you know what I could do? I could absolutely glaze the moves that Texas has been making since we've last been on this show. Of course, we landed Cam Coleman, the number one wide receiver in the portal. We landed Raleek Brown, during our before our last episode. But then we landed Hollywood Smothers from NC State, really good running back. But then the number one linebacker, Rasheem Biles from Pittsburgh. Um, Justin Cryer, also a linebacker that I like just because he's a culture guy. But most importantly, because Texas had the 85th rated offensive line this year, a stat that I have thrown out podcast after podcast. We got some offensive linemen finally. Melvin Ciani from Wake Forest, 468 pass plays this year. Ryan, any guesses how many sacks he allowed?
um, 5.
Wrong. Same as you and me, and we don't play college football. Zero. Not to mention, they also landed a project player and freshman offensive tackle, Jonte Newman. So that was the big area I wanted to see Texas attack in the portal was the offensive line, and they got two very good players. Of course, they got the kid from Oregon State as well. So I think worst case scenario, Texas is going to have a lot better than the 85th rated offensive line this year, and to go along with those weapons like Cam Coleman, Hollywood Smothers, Raleek Brown, is going to be a fun year. But I could go ad nauseum at that. So where Darian Menza is making me cry, Texas football is making me very happy from the portal. But I could spend the rest of the podcast on that. I'm not going to do that. Two of the bigger moves that have happened, since our last show is that Lane Kiffin has his quarterback. Sam Leavitt is transferring from Arizona State to LSU. So Ryan, what are your thoughts on that move?
I mean, I think it's a great move. It's obviously for LSU fans, it's a upgrade at head coach and it's an upgrade at quarterback. I think he's a much better quarterback than what's his name?
Nussmeyer.
Yeah, than Garrett Nussmeier, who had the most SEC name ever, if you say it with like a Southern voice. But
Nussmeyer.
Nussmeier, boy Nussmeier at LSU down there. Um, But yeah, I think it's a very good upgrade. They'll still have good receivers that he can throw to. Lane Kiffin's always had, explosive offense. Maybe at LSU he can finally get a really good defense. And Ole Miss had a great defense, had a good defense this year. But yeah, I honestly think it's a very good option. They've had their jokes about maybe they're talking to the same girl, Sam Levitt and Lane Kiffin, which is hilarious. But um, it's a it's a great decision for Sam Levitt to go there to match up with a good head coach and good stars around the offense and having Whit Weeks on defense.
That always helps as well. But also, one of the other big moves that has happened since our last show is that Dylan Raiola has transferred to Oregon. But there's a twist now because now Dante Moore is deciding to not go pro and return to Oregon. So, overall, now that Dante Moore is returning to Oregon, Dylan Raiola is expected to sit behind Moore for next season and develop. Ryan, overall, what were your thoughts on that whole predicament?
Yeah, and did you when you made the script of this, did he come back yet? Or did
No.
we? Okay, because we had a kind
We
of
are
change.
an open book podcast, apparently. Now where I'm giving away my script tendencies.
Yeah, I mean, you know how pro team or like things that happens in pro sports, people have podcasts about it, tell it behind the scenes. We got to tell the behind the scenes of less is more sports. But what I forgot to mention about Sam Levitt is that he played in 7 games. Both of these quarterbacks are coming off injuries. You know, it'll help out Rayola with sitting. He's able to recover a bunch. I think it could be a smart move for him. Oregon's going to be very good next year again but he's choosing the same route that Dante Moore did with Dylan Gabriel. Now, it's a little different with Rayola. is doing it after his sophomore year, and Dante Moore did it after his freshman year when he was at UCLA. So he'll have to uh, sit behind Dante Moore, which I think Dylan Gabriel was a more veteran that maybe Dante Moore could learn more from. But Dante Moore's still a good quarterback, and Dylan Rail can still learn learn good things after him. So I think it's a good move. Just, if you have the money to pay a starting quarterback to be your backup quarterback, then do it. If you have Phil Knight that's just giving out money, Les is over there crying because I guess he wanted Dylan Raiola.
I definitely did not. I mean, even though Duke could probably use him at this point.
No, but if you have the money to pay a starting quarterback to be your backup, then do it. So I think it's a good move for it's just setting you up for the future. It's already having the plan, like having plan A, so you don't have to go to a plan B. So it gives time for Rail to recover and learn.
I think more than anything, just having a year to be able to sit and just learn the offense. I mean, whether he learns anything from Moore, whether Moore is a good teammate and takes him under his wing and teaches him the offense and sets him up for next year, nothing he actually has to do. But whether he does that or not, I mean, Rayola can take it upon himself and learn the offense, sit behind, watch, and of course, he's going to be making money, like you said. So, I mean, it's a win-win for him. And Oregon's been, like you said, Oregon's been successful with this model before. I mean, this is how Dante Moore was brought into the equation. Now, he very easily could have been one of the first quarterbacks taken this year, but obviously feels like there is some unfinished business at Oregon. Rayola can be set up for the same way. He could step in a year after learning the offense, come in, have success right away, and then absolutely improve his draft stock when he does finally take over as the Oregon starting quarterback.
Yeah.
But as we get into the final segment we have of this show, of all the moves that have happened since our last show to now, and all the players that have chosen their new destination, what is a move from between that timeline that you think is underrated?
Yeah, I don't know how much underrated this is, maybe overhated. But I am still a believer in DJ Lagway, and my underrated move, maybe underrated, is him going to Baylor. Baylor had a great starting quarterback this year with Sawyer Robertson, threw for 3,681 yards, 31 touchdowns. They like to sling the rock. I think that it takes away pressure being at Baylor for DJ Lagway. That's what he needs. And the whole what Florida had going was just terrible with Billy Napier. But I think that, you know, D DJ Lagway will do well for Baylor. He'll kind of revamp his career. Sucks that it came to that point, but it's just what happens in college football. So that's my underrated move. I'm still a believer in DJ Lagway. He's a good runner. He can throw the ball as far as you want. But so I'm still a believer, and that is my underrated move.
I'm kind of like you in the sense that I don't know if this move is necessarily underrated, but it's a move that I like a lot. And speaking of Oregon, as we stay on topic here, Coy Parrish going to Oregon, one of the best defensive backs, one of the best safeties in the transfer portal, and obviously had a great career at Minnesota up to this point, but clearly wants to play for a bigger brand team and get more recognition. He's going to get that at Oregon. He's going to get all the Nike money, all the Nike exposure over at Autzen, and no, I just think it's a perfect fit for, the defense that Oregon typically likes to run. So I don't know if this is quite as impactful as Ty Benefield going to LSU, because I think that's been the most underrated move of the portal so far. But still, this is a move that you see and you're like, oh, that's a good fit. That's going to work out really well. So yeah, Coy Parrish, one of the best players in the portal, in my opinion. Definitely one of the best defensive backs in the portal going to Oregon. Oregon's secondary just got that much better. And we officially have about a little over 3 minutes before we run out of time. So I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way. As always, like and subscribe to the Less is More Sports podcast to get the YouTube and Spotify channel to get the latest updates we have on content coming out. Be sure to follow the social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Threads. That's at Less is More Sports. And what is our bull session going to be about today, Ryan?
Well, going back to the transfer portal, we always have like a king of the transfer portal every year. And this year and probably last year and probably the year before, the king of the transfer portal is TJ Finley, easily.
Yes.
Okay, if you're listening on Spotify, you can't see this, but this is all the schools that he's been to. LSU, Auburn, Texas State, Tulane, WKU, Georgia State, and now Incarnate Word. I mean, that is insane. That's his seventh school. Mr. King of the transfer portal. He's using it. I don't know to say, is he really using it to his advantage? But he's collecting all the team gear that you can get from different schools. So that is the king.
I know one that would be very jealous, and that is Matt McClellan.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, his hat. His lineup of hats might be better than Matt's. Maybe not. Maybe
Ooh.
not.
Matt needs to get on here the next episode and set the record straight.
He's got incarnate word. Does Matt have that?
Let us know in the comments who has a better hat game, TJ Finley or Matt McClellan, our very own Matt McClellan. But
Yeah.
that is, I mean, also king of the transfer portal, or you could say the king of an extra year of eligibility, because just to be able to
Yeah.
be in college long enough to go to seven different schools is absolutely insane.
Yeah. I mean, even Josh Johnson thinks that's a lot of teams.
Yeah.
You know, the guy who's been like 18 years in the NFL, been on like 10 different teams, that's like one third of the NFL. He thinks that's a lot of teams. So
Yeah, he thinks that's excessive.
yeah, I can't help you out there, TJ Finley. I remember when he was at Auburn, but now he's still in college football.
I remember when he was recruited to LSU.
Yeah, that's crazy. Who would have known that he would? That's got to be, I don't know what the record is. That's probably the record.
I would venture to say that is the record.
He's in the record books of college football.
Oh, for sure. Who would be the probably the record of college basketball? It's got to be someone like Dev. It's got to be someone like Devin Askew.
Yeah, probably Devin Askew, who's with what, Villanova now, I think.
I think yeah.
He's under Kevin
He
Willard. Willard.
yeah, and he's actually having a pretty decent year.
Yeah. I remember he was at Kentucky. That was like one of Cal's worst years
He was
for
also at Texas too.
yeah. Yeah. Devin Askew might have that. And there's obviously players that have played for so many years or that you feel like the one guy from Kansas, like
Hunter
maybe
Dickinson.
no, it was earlier than that. Like I can't remember his name, but he felt like he played for like 7 years. But going to seven different teams is different.
Are you talking about Perry Ellis?
Yes. Yeah, he felt like he played like forever.
But at least Perry Ellis stayed on the same team.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so did Aaron Kraft. He felt like he played forever too. They stay on the same team though.
Well, nowadays, if you're around more than 1 year, it seems like you play 10 years now.
Yeah. Bruce Thornton has felt like he played for a while, but it's like his fourth year. But we could log off at any second.
Who's going to be cut off by the timer, me or
Probably
Ryan?
me. Probably me.
It's usually Ryan.
Yeah, it is usually.
Yep.